Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first Dataverse and Harvard Dataverse webinar of the semester. I'm very happy to see everyone here. I'll reiterate that this is being recorded and that we will provide the slides and a survey for feedback after the webinar. I'm hoping to finish in time for us to have some discussions, but please use the QA in the meanwhile. I have some of my colleagues here joining me, and they'll be able to answer some of your questions while I do the webinar. So I'm Sonia Barbosa, and I manage the Harvard Dataverse, and I manage the Murray Research Archive, and I work here at IQSS with the Dataverse project team. So welcome. So today we're going to be talking about the Harvard Dataverse Repository and the NIH DMP Harvard Dataverse guidance document that we created this year. So generally, it's going to include a brief overview of the Dataverse project, very brief, but this is going to focus on using the Harvard Dataverse Repository and again, this NIH related document. Here's our agenda for today: Dataverse project overview, Dataverse project and FAIR, getting started with the Harvard Dataverse Repository, which will cover collections, data sets, files, sensitive data, search and browse, data reuse. And then we'll talk about the NIH GRAE related improvements that are coming with this NIH GRAE grant that we have. And we'll have an overview of the NIH DMP guidance document that you can use if you plan to use the Harvard Dataverse Repository, and hopefully some time for more questions and answers. So just an overview of the Dataverse project. The Dataverse project is an open source research data repository software. It was developed around late 1990s, early 2000s. It has a large community of coders and researchers and people related in data sharing that contribute to the tool. And right now we're at 100 installations. We reached 100 installations this year, sometime in June. So there are 100 installations. The Harvard Dataverse Repository is one of those installations. So how does Dataverse help with data management and sharing? The software itself has a platform, provides a platform that has ease of data deposits, data citation, data access control, metadata standards. There are policies that you can develop around your installation. And of course, it provides data discovery and hopefully helps with data reuse. It is built behind robust metadata. DDI being the main metadata template that we use to support describing your data, describing your files, and describing your research project. And Dataverse also has a number of roles and permissions and access workflows that makes it very easy for you to use when you have a research project or you have a team of researchers that are working together on a project. So we have some Dataverse repository features. I'm not going to talk about all of these at once. There's a whole lot of them. Each of these slides has a link to the topic that was being covered. So there's a link that'll go to the software feature page, and then you can browse all of these features and how the tool itself supports data sharing. There are a whole lot of data tools for discoverability and preservation. I don't even think I've covered all of them in here. This is just a list of the ones that are more frequently asked about and used. There's a lot of integrations, new features being developed all the time. We have a roadmap on our dataverse.org website that you should visit if you have questions about what new features and tools are coming for data support. So FAIR principles. As a lot of us know by now, if you're sharing data, the data needs to be findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. Happy to answer questions about FAIR as we move through this discussion, but Dataverse provides by default the support for FAIR. And then as a user of the repository and as the person who's adding additional metadata, who's using or uploading files in the proper formats or files that use the extensive integrated tools that we have, you are increasingly moving your data towards FAIR by utilizing all of the features and all of the tools and putting in the information needed to describe and use your project well. So although the software itself has built-in default support for FAIR, it's what you do as the researcher in describing your data and putting in proper files and using the access workflows and using the terms page and using versioning properly that allows your data sets and your projects to move more towards FAIR. So we all know what FAIR is. So for the Dataverse project and the Harvard Dataverse specifically, there's DOIs. It supports DOIs and handles for data sets and for files, and it enables metadata indexing by search engines. There's it's accessible, so there's open access to metadata. Metadata is always visible once you publish, and ensures the data can be downloaded in machine-readable formats depending on the type of files that you upload. Interoperable, meaning that Dataverse provides standardized metadata schemas and enables the integration of data with other tools and other platforms that you'll see today. And then, of course, reusable, right? If you share data, whether it's restricted data or open data, your license is to clearly reflect how somebody can use your data. If your data are restricted and you don't have information about how the data can be used, your data are not reusable. So just some things to talk about or to think about as we talk today. So, getting started with the Harvard Dataverse Repository. What's the purpose of a repository? So to keep a certain population of data, and I pulled this right off of some Wikipedia information, keep a certain population of data so it can be mined for greater insight or business intelligence. The re3data.org is a great place to find researchers, organizations, libraries, and publishers and get an overview of existing repositories for research data. And I'd like to stress that data should always be submitted to discipline-specific, community-recognized repositories where possible before you consider a generalist repository, okay? So here is the Harvard Dataverse Repository. Again, this is one of the 100 installations of the Dataverse Software project around the world. I've put a link to the repository policy page that you should visit and read up on our policies before you use the page. The Harvard Dataverse Repository is open to the worldwide research data sharing community. One thing to keep in mind is the repository, although it's open and it's a self-curated repository, meaning you can come in and deposit your own data, it is still a managed repository in that there's a team of curators that goes in and checks every deposit pre-publishing. We check to ensure that sensitive data are not being shared on our platform because it is not yet sensitive data compliant. We check that you're actually sharing data that can be reused by others because we are not just for article sharing or presentation sharing or documentation sharing. There are other platforms that support that. When somebody follows a DOI to the Harvard Dataverse Repository, they are expecting to find reusable data. So we have policies on copyright. We have policies on how to use our system, how to communicate with data depositors, how to access our system. And so you should visit that policy page before you start your work. So, before you even get to the Harvard Dataverse Repository to think about sharing your data, one of the things you should really do is prepare your data for sharing. And this is, if you're a librarian, if you're a researcher, if you're a faculty member today, just keeping these things in mind. You want to gather and verify your data, choose and organize your data, and then share your data well, right? So you have to determine what you're going to share, and ensure that it's ready to be shared. So what are we sharing? Are we sharing the raw data, the output data, along with the documentation, README, and codebook? Because if you just share the documentation, README, and codebook, that's not data. Something has to be in there that's usable, that somebody can use the documentation, README, and codebook to make sense of. Can you share the data openly? So things to consider while you're doing this gather and verify. How about the copyright? Does your producer want to be recognized in the metadata that you're going to be sharing? Do you have the right to share the data, or are you sharing it under the funder agency, perhaps as the author? So you have to make sure you understand who the author of the data are, who owns the data, and who should be receiving credit for the data. De-identification. If you are using the Harvard Dataverse Repository, you absolutely have to de-identify your data. We are not yet able to support sensitive data, although that is coming as part of the NIH Gray initiative. And so you see a big red text here that says sensitive data is not supported yet. Because we check pre-publication, it's important that the identification is done ahead of time, because in the Harvard repository, when the curation team runs into data that are identifiable, we are going to deaccession it and remove it. Make sure that you are taking the identification for not just human subjects, but vulnerable endangered species into consideration if you're putting in any data that has to do with environmental locations. And then access restrictions, right? Are you going to restrict your data because it needs to be restricted? Are you going to embargo your data? Personally, for me, as I've been working with human subjects data for a long time, I tell people that if they de-identify your data, they should still have some way of understanding and knowing who's using their data, either by restricting the data and using the request access information to know who's using your data, or by using the guest book, because sometimes you need to be able to track your users and say, excuse me, we found some identifiable information. Can you stop using the data so that we can clean it, and then we'll send you a clean copy. What are your metadata standards? What metadata standards are you going to use? So Harvard Dataverse offers about 5 or 6 different standards. I can't remember off the top of my head. And we also can create custom metadata blocks. So you need to know ahead of time what metadata standard that we offer are you going to use to support your data. Choose and organize your files, non-proprietary file formats for ease of access, interoperability, and preservation. It's not always possible to put in those file formats. So when and if you can put in a proprietary file format, and then see if you're able to put in that same file in an open format, okay? Organize the data well, checking that all files are valid, no corruption in the file. Because what I find is a lot of people will upload files, but then they don't check the download of the file to make sure that a file is not corrupt. Detailed file names are important. You never want to use data 1, data 2, data 3. And they're useful. And then your folder should always be clearly labeled, because we have integrating tools that will create a tree or a table of your folders. And so you want your folders to be descriptive. Know that the Harvard Dataverse has file limitations. For non-Harvard affiliates, your project size is 1 terabyte. For Harvard affiliates, it's 2.5 terabytes. File sizes are generally 2.5 gigabytes. And if you have larger files, you just need to contact us so that we can help you bring those files in. We're not going to give you access to a larger bandwidth permanently, but we will accommodate getting in a larger file. And then we will put your collection space back to the default size of 2.5 gigabytes per file. For tabular data, we get additional functionality, which is going to be really useful. You'll see in some of my slides. And then knowing the tools available for use in Harvard Dataverse, and there are links that go to those tools. So determine the repository. If you're sharing with the Harvard repository, we're going to talk about that today. Determine which repository you want to use. With the NIH Grade project, there are 7 repositories involved that you can choose from, generalist repositories, to share data. Share in one repository for one DOI. Different components can be shared between domain-specific and generalists, but avoid sharing the same component in multiple repositories, because what's going to happen is you're going to have multiple DOIs for the same component of data, and people are going to be citing your data, the same data, with multiple DOIs. Documentation such as README files should describe the data thoroughly and completely. Make sure your README file instructions for any reproducibility that you go through and verify that it works before you deposit it. A lot of journals will require verification before they approve your publication and publish your data. And of course, share your citation and collection space URL once this is done. So for the Harvard Dataverse repository, what you're going to do is really 3 things, and then the default tools are going to work with you. You're going to create a collection. A collection is a space devoted to you as a researcher or a faculty member or a research project, a research laboratory, an organization, and an institution. You can add logos and themes and links to this space and describe your project or your organization or yourself as a researcher. Within this collection space, you're going to deposit all of your data sets. Each data set gets a DOI. So, and then you can also create multiple sub-collections under your initial collection space, and you can add additional data sets under there. So if you're a faculty member that works across different research projects, you can have a sub-collection under your main faculty collection for each of those different projects and put the data sets under there. Each data set gets a DOI. You're going to upload your files to your data sets. Files do not exist outside of data sets in a Dataverse repository platform. Okay. So for ease of visibility, I've included 3 slides that really capture what you do in any Dataverse installation, but we're going to talk about the Harvard Dataverse repository here. Dataverse collection, here's what it looks like. You're going to log in, you're going to create a space, you're going to customize it with your logos, and here are the edit options for your space. Your space is going to allow you to have permission settings, who can work in that space with you, who can add data, who can delete data. You're going to be able to customize it with themes and widgets. The general information is where you select all of the metadata ahead of time that's going to support your data. You can edit that at any time. You can add additional metadata to support your new projects. You can delete old metadata. You can play around with the metadata that you are putting into this collection space that will support all of your data. Groups is another set of permission. There are templates if you have a lot of data and you have a lot of authors and you want to pre-fill some information so that every time you come in here to your collection space to add a data set, you don't have to re-enter consistent information. There's the guest book. I've mentioned the guest book once. The guest book, whether your data are restricted or open, allows you to collect information about who's visiting your page, who's downloading data, what they're downloading, and what they're doing with it. You can get very fine-grained and collect things like name, email, affiliation, or you can just set up a guest book that basically tracks which data sets and which data files are being used. Are they being analyzed online? Are they being downloaded? And you can collect things like a simple proposal of what they plan to do with your data. I, again, stress that I always use the guest book when I have a de-identified data collection where the access is open, because then I'm able to track who's used my data in case I ever need to reach out to them about any problems with the data. And featured Dataverses, we will show you that's all your featured collections. If you create collections and sub-collections, it has a nice way to organize it so that it increases discoverability of your projects. That is your collection. Data set level. So once you create your collection, you're going to put your data sets in your collection. So here is the data set page. Here are the supported metadata that you're able to choose from to support your data sets. Here is an image of the fact that a data set page gets files. It gets a file page, a metadata page, a terms page, and a versions page. Here you'll note a little red lock. That's just to show you what a restricted file looks like. And here's some information about creating a data set, right? I have the author name. I can select my identifier schema. I can put in my contact. Some of these are required. Okay, it's required. Some of the fields when you're creating a data set is required. They're required to build your citation, and they're required to have some an ability to contact you as the author and owner of the data set to answer questions about them when somebody comes across your data set and they have a question. They wouldn't contact the repository because we didn't collect your data. We're supporting your data, and that's all we're doing. We don't retain copyright of your data. We don't answer questions about your data. That's for you to do, which is why the contact is there. So data sets get citations, complete citations. You fill out some information. We add the other default information, and you get a complete citation. Metadata to support your data sets. Versioning, so that when you publish a data set and you make a change, you get a new minor or major version depending on the change that you made, because people like to know the history of a data set, right? How it was developed, the first thing that was put in, and how it's changed over time. Private URL for draft data sets, so that if you're working in a research team and you put in a data set, then you can share a private URL before you publish it with your co-authors or with the journal and say, here's what I've done. Does this look okay? Can I publish it? Custom terms, multiple license support, permissions, the guest book, and there's a publishing workflow. And then, of course, you put your files into your data sets, right? So the file page supports, the Dataverse software supports any file type, but there is additional functionality and ingest for tabular data files, which we will look at. When you have tabular data files, then you're going to get things like the ability to preview the file, explore the file. You're going to get, in the case of Harvard Dataverse, we do offer the ability for file level DOIs. There's metadata, provenance, versioning of files, permissions, embargo, and restrictions. And so I'm showing you the capabilities. This is a page that has some files. These are restricted. Somebody has had access to them because they've given access, they've requested the data. There's a data explorer here, data file citation, that's for a tabular file. So that was a file that was initially a CSV file. It was brought in, and then it got ingested with the special tools and features in the Dataverse. And it became a tabular file where you get some metadata information. It tells you the number of downloads, it tells you the number of variables, and the number of observations, and then the ability to do this additional analysis and visualization directly on the Dataverse. Here are the editing options for files. Once you create a data set and you add files, you can add additional metadata for your files. You can restrict it, unrestrict it, add tags to describe it, like you see here where it says documentation and here documentation. You can embargo it, you can delete a file, okay? Here's what the analysis, the online analysis tool looks like. It's the Dataverse Explorer. We're using version 1 and version 2. It's coming soon. It's developed by Scholars Portal, Borealis, which is a group out in Canada, which is a community of the the Dataverse project. So here are the details. When you visit the Harvard Dataverse repository, you're going to want to create an account, and there are a lot of account creation options. I recommend, if your organization, institution is part of Shibboleth, that you use Shibboleth authentication to log in. So in Commons is a space that registers for this kind of authentication, and universities or organizations go to there. There's a fee, and you can log in basically with your university affiliation. So I always log in with the Harvard University key and PIN. And a number of organizations, if they have licensed data that they're sharing on the Harvard Dataverse repository, will have their users log in with their Shibboleth or university authentication, because then they get access to restricted licensed content that their affiliation has been added to. So there's GitHub login, Google login, ORCID login that you can use, okay? So when you create a Dataverse collection, again, remember that your collection space is going to be supporting either one project or several projects. So you want to make your collection space options very broad. You want to have a lot of metadata support. You want to pick your searchable facets. There are widget boxes. So if you have a Dataverse with us, you can take a widget of your Dataverse and put it into your own website. Okay, so then somebody who's on your website can browse your data sets and they can browse your files. There's roles and permissions. Again, when you have a space, you have the ability to share that space and work in your space with people in your research team. Okay, the templates, the guest book, the featured collections, there's linking, so that if I have a project in the Harvard Dataverse right now and I have a collection and somebody else has a data set that's related to what I study, I can link their data set to my space to show the data set for discoverability. I don't get permission for that data set to do anything with it, but I can display it in my own space. So I can create a collection of a lot of related content that's also deposited in the Harvard Dataverse. There's even harvesting from other repositories so that I can display what I would like to display in terms of related data to my collection space in the Harvard Dataverse. And again, you can create a collection and you can create sub-collections, and these collections are what's going to support your data sets. So there's metadata searchable facets, and they hold your data sets. This is what the metadata looks like. You have to fill in some information about who you are, your project name, your identifier. There's some required information, right, to build your space. Metadata is very important. Citation is always required. You cannot get rid of it, but then you can also pick geospatial, social science. You can pick multiple metadata blocks to support your data. Searchable facets are important, and you'll see why, because when somebody comes to your collection space, they need to be able to search and find your data, especially if you have a lot of data, okay? So just some information here on the permissions for your Dataverse space. You can assign roles, who can do what in your collection space. They can add a data set, or they can just contribute data, and then they can't publish, but you can. You'd get a notification and say, your co-author has contributed a data set to your space. Can you review it before you publish it? Okay. So here's what a collection space looks like for a group population council Dataverse. These are the featured collections that they have. They created a space, These are the searchable metadata facets. Look at how many searchable metadata facets they have. They have 77 data sets and 69 files. I can use all these facets to narrow my search down by geography, deposit date, funding information, but this is information that they put in. So the Dataverse software gives you all these fields. You have to fill it in with what you want to make searchable to people who are using your data. So after you create your collection spaces, now we're talking about data sets. And as I mentioned before, data sets contain your files. They contain a whole lot of metadata, but remember that you defined that metadata when you created the collection space. And then they hold your data file, your documentation, your code, computational workflows. All the files have to be uploaded to a data set that you've created. Files cannot exist on their own. There are a whole lot of features related to files. I can't touch on all of them during this webinar, so we have some time for questions. There are embargoes, data set versioning, provenance, roles and permissions, who can download or who can edit and who can do what to my data set, restricted files, there's a lot of ways to upload files. There are a lot of tools for file handling. So you're going to see some preview tools. You're going to see some ask the data tools for your files. So all of the things that we can talk about, cloud storage, data set metrics, make data count, okay? So data set metadata, again, here's what we support, but we also have the ability to add custom metadata blocks, which we're happy to talk about at some point if we get through all the slides. I might not go through every single slide, by the way, it's very long, but I like to include the information in here because you're going to need it later, okay? So here's just an example of metadata. So they selected all the metadata ahead of time. They are using keywords that tie to agricultural keywords. They're also using topic classifications that tie to agricultural topic classifications. We didn't add that for them. They had the metadata there and they put in the information. Just to give you an idea of the work you need to do as a researcher or as the depositor in order to use the features that we have available. So as I said, data sets is where you get your citations. You don't get your citation in the collection space. You get your citation in the data set. And then there's also file level citation in case somebody uses one of your 300 or so files. So your data set citation is partly built by the Dataverse software, but partly built by you putting in the title, the author, and then we give you the DOI, we give you the repository, and we give you the versioning. I'm going to ignore UNS for a minute because that's going to go away. So we provide all that information, but you still have to put in just a bit of information in order to get your citation. And the citations are standardized across all Dataverse repositories, okay? So just talking about relating your publication to your citation, if you have a citation, somebody uses your data, then they can cite your data set, okay? And they can use that citation that you just saw to cite your data set, okay? Just an example of, there's a field for related material and related publications when you're depositing a data set where you can have the data and then you want to link to the article that's related to the data. Do not put articles in the Harvard Dataverse that are behind subscription walls. If you have an article in a journal, you're putting your data in the Harvard Dataverse repository and you're linking in this field to the article that's published in a journal, okay? That's how it works. These are your data set editing options. Once you come in and you create a data set, you have the ability to upload additional files, delete files, add additional metadata, your licensing, permissions, right? Who can help me edit this data set? Who can download files in this data set? The private URL that I mentioned works with draft data sets. So in draft format, because everything in the in Dataverse and in the Harvard Dataverse is you start out with a draft and then you publish it after you're done putting in all the information. Private URLs for a draft data set that you think is done, you're going to share it with somebody. Journals typically want to see that you've put in the information they requested and you have a DOI. Your co-authors might have some feedback on what you've put in before you publish it. Okay, that's the private URL. Deaccession data set can only be used after you've published a data set and you made a major mistake and you need to deaccession it. If the data set has been downloaded, you can't delete it because somebody needs that citation. When you deaccession a data set, what it leaves is called the citation tombstone page that has the citation and the DOI to say it did exist and here's why it was removed. Permissions, workflows, and roles. So data sets also have their own permission workflows and roles. Just like collection pages have their own permissions, so do data sets. I can add somebody to my data set as an admin, a contributor, a curator, a file downloader, or a member. I can give access to restricted files on a per file basis in my data set. So after I create my data set, put in all the metadata, upload the files, I can decide that if I restrict all my files and somebody requests access, which of the files am I going to give them access to? Maybe they don't need access to everything. Maybe I have a component of the data that's only for bona fide researchers, and I have another version of the data that can go to the public. So just giving you a look at a data set with a description, subject, keyword. Subject is one of the things that's required. This person has a notes that goes to their data use agreement. So there's a lot of text that you can enter in and a lot of links that you can enter into a data set to describe it. Here's just an example of the data set terms. As I mentioned, there's multiple license support. Okay. The license support also shows up in the description of the landing page for your data set. Custom terms of use can be put in like this. IFPRI is International Food Policy Research Institute. They have their own terms of use. They use embargo, they use restrictions, they have data use agreements. And so they put in these terms and they have a lot of links to their policies about how to use their data. So once you put in a data set, you have files, you have metadata, you have terms. Versioning automatically happens on the back end. If you have a data set in the Harvard Dataverse Repository, you come in, it's published, you come in and you edit it. Whether you're removing a file, adding a file, fixing metadata, when you publish that data set again, it's going to create a version. So it tracks the versions for you. You just go in and do your changes, hit save and publish. The system tracks all the changes for you. It'll literally give you the details of the changes that you made. So you don't have to do it yourself. So files. So once you have a data set, you have to put the files up. Again, the Harvard Dataverse Repository and the Dataverse tool will allow you to upload any kind of file. Certain files will get additional functionality, additional ingest, and additional features. So this is just a plain text file, and open access files will automatically utilize any tools that we have for preview as long as the file works with the tool, right? There's some files that don't. The formatting, it doesn't work. This tabular file, as you can see, has an additional tool. This tool is called Ask the Data. It's a new tool, and basically it'll open up this tabular file for you. And it'll, so this tabular file was of some format. I can't tell right now because I don't have this piece down, what it was. I get the number of variables, the number of observations, and I can ask the data a question, and it'll look through the data and give me an answer. But there's also the preview, just like this one. And then there's a bunch of download options here, okay? This restricted file, I want you to notice that you can't preview it, even though it's just an Excel spreadsheet. You can't preview it because it's restricted. They have a request access on this. So there's a built-in request access workflow that you can use to request access to the file. These are the tabular files that we support for this additional ingest, where you get the ask the data, you get to do data analysis, and you get to download files in different formats, in different open formats. Okay, so if you have any files that are in this format, you're going to get this additional functionality. Here's what happens with tabular files. I get the ask the data, the preview, and then I get to see what the tabular file was. This file was a CSV file, and I get to do data explorer and data file citation and variable metadata. If this was a regular other file, I wouldn't have that option. If it was just like a PDF file, I would get the preview, but I wouldn't get the ability to do this explorer. So here's what Ask the Data. This is our newest tool. Tell me what you want to know. So you go to a tabular data file, you click on that file, it takes you to what's called the file landing page. You can put in a question about the data. It's going to look through the data and give you a response. This is the file previewer, the little eye icon that you've been seeing. So if you have a tabular file, if you have a PDF file that somebody can look through, you're going to get a previewer, okay? And it lets you look at the file ahead of time to see if there's something in there that you want to use. You're not going to have this previewer for anything that's restricted, just so you know. And then we also have a GeoJSON previewer for geospatial files. And this is what it looks like, okay? Tabular data files, the data explorer tool that I mentioned, here's what it looks like. Okay, so if I go into a tabular file and I use the Data Explorer tool, then I'm able to do some simple statistics and visualizations and get some visualizations of the data. That's only if you're using tabular files that have been converted to or ingested by the system to use this functionality. Here are the embargoes and the restrictions. At the data set level again, file level, you can embargo or you can restrict files. You can go from embargo to restricted. You get to set it. You get to set these permissions. You can say, my file is embargoed for 3 years. After the embargo, I'm going to restrict it because I want people to tell me what they're going to do with the data before they use it. Or you can go from embargo to open. Okay, this is well described. You have tags. You have the tags that they put in. These tags are pre-coded into the Harvard Dataverse, but you can add new tags to describe your data, like they have data panel survey. Okay, because we have data documentation and code, I believe. So they added the panel and the survey. Okay, the embargo shows up everywhere on the data set name, so people can clearly see that it's embargoed. Deaccessioning is what I told you happens when you have a data set that's published and you don't want, you made a mistake, a really crucial mistake, because you shouldn't deaccession for minor errors. Deaccessioning is you really are getting rid of the data set from the Harvard Dataverse Repository for a reason. Transferring to another repository is a good reason, but you want to leave a record because if it's been published, there's a likelihood that somebody has used it. So if somebody's used it and published on it, they need to be able to find that DOI and that page that it did exist. All right, considerations for sensitive data. Okay, Harvard Dataverse does not support, the Harvard Dataverse Repository does not support sensitive data yet. There are tools coming. So you cannot put sensitive data into, it doesn't matter if it's restricted, you can't put it into the Harvard Dataverse. So you want to de-identify your data. This was an identifiable data set. We de-identified it. We actually, in this archive, that's in this collection space, that's within the Harvard repository, we use an application form. There's a whole lot of terms of use. There's an application form the person has to fill out and submit. The data files are all restricted for access. Notice that this PDF, you can preview it. We leave the documentation open when we curate a data set, when we share our data sets, because people need to know what the data set's about. So if there's something that's not restricted, if the measures is not they're not copyrighted, this is the memorandum of agreement with the contributor. We leave those open so that a researcher understands what the data is about before they request it. So we have descriptions and we have a lot of documentation that's open for this type of data set, and then they can determine if they want to request access, and then they would fill out this application. Okay, if you are not using an application, I would at least utilize it for human subjects data or any data that's been de-identified, that you use the guestbook feature, because it gives you information about who's using your data and what they're doing with it in case you ever need to contact them. We have search and browse functionality that's extensive on the Dataverse platform. I'm going to talk about this as the Dataverse software, not just the Harvard repository, but you can use keyword search, advanced search. So if you want to find a funding agency or keywords, there's sorting, there's cross-repository integration. So if you come to the Harvard Dataverse repository, you're going to find that we have harvested data sets that we get from other Dataverse installations that we make discoverable on our page. But when you click on it, it actually takes you to the original repository where you have to go through the process of accessing data from them. So we have the harvested and we have the Harvard information. Here's our advanced search that you can use. It allows you to search through citation metadata, files, contributor name, funding agency. So you can do an advanced search, you can do a basic search, and you can click on these facets here for research group and journals. So if you clicked on journals, you would be searching through all the journals. Here's some more browse and search. So we talked about browsing and searching, searching by keyword. You can search by data set details, metadata, description, author, citation, download options, multiple format downloads. That's one way to look at the system. Browsing by category and subjects, by featured data sets and collections. Ask the data will give you information about the data. And here's just a little screenshot about Ask the Data and how you can use that to get information about what you want to use. Data reuse. So these are just some examples of how the data have been reused. Okay, so here's the data on the Harvard Dataverse. 904 downloads. Here are some references for how they've been reused. The same thing for this data set and the reference for how the data have been reused. So the NIH Gray Grant is a big project between NIH and 7 generalist repositories to improve data sharing, discovery of NIH-funded data, adopting consistent metadata, coming up with use cases that need to be supported, implementing open metrics. A lot of training has been done so far. We started year 2 in January. So this is year 2 of the grant. We're doing a lot of outreach. We do a lot of webinars, a lot of co-opetition between the 7 repositories, and Dataverse, even though it's the software, we are involved in it because we support so many repositories. You're going to see a lot of the tools and features that we're talking about come to the Harvard repository instance before the other instances, most likely. So here's what we're working on for Gray for Dataverse. We're going to be supporting large data with Globus, and there's a demo link in the slides that you can see how Globus works. Remote data support is going to be available for Harvard affiliates. Harvard Research Computing offers a lot of different support options for larger data. So if you have that need, you reach out to us. We're going to have flexible and additional biomedical metadata. So I showed you the list of metadata that we support now. I think there were about 6 standards, but we're going to have additional biomedical standards that are coming to the Harvard repository instance. We're going to have additional code files, replication packages, and sensitive data support. The sensitive data support is going to come through these tools that are linked in the slide, so you can learn more about it. It's all about differential privacy. And we're going to have improvements to metrics, UI enhancement, APIs, interoperability, metadata harvesting, and curation services. So we're going to be supporting everything from the installation level to the collection level to data sets and files. We're building new tools. So in summary, the Dataverse project facilitates all of this sharing. The Harvard repository is the repository that's open to the worldwide community out of the 100 repositories around the world. Metadata is essential, and we have best practices to ensure compliance with data. Now, we're not going to stop because we have to go through the NIH data management really quickly. And I'm happy to hang out, an additional 10 minutes afterwards for questions. So we had to develop an NIH data management and sharing policy for the Harvard Dataverse because NIH came up with has a new DMP. And so what we did was we went through the template and we put in some summary text that can be used when you're completing a DMP for NIH. You might be able to use it for any other grant. That talks specifically about how Harvard Dataverse, the repository, and the Dataverse tool will meet your needs in this DMP. Okay, so data sharing in context. We know NIH shares data and they require that funds data collection, and they require that data be shared. So the NIH data management and sharing policy is that you have to have a data management plan. You have to propose the repository, and the repository is consistent with NIH guidance and compliance with your plan as approved by NIH ICO. So there's lots of elements to a data management and sharing plan: data type, tools, standards, preservation, access, oversight. And so what we've done is we've created there's information here about desirable characteristics for repositories, but what we've done is, I'm going to skip through those, is we've created a guidance document that can be linked to from this slide that gives you the boilerplate text for each element that you can use. So we've gone through the elements, and what we've done is give you the sample text using or utilizing what's available in Dataverse and the Harvard Dataverse repository to support the elements that are being requested that you complete for the DMPs. Okay, I won't go through all of them because there's a lot, but what I want you to see, we can take on standards, right? Harvard Dataverse is committed to using standard compliant metadata would be the text, exported formats for tabular files and for regular metadata. For preservation and interoperability, we have the life sciences metadata block will be applied to the data. These are the things that you're going to be doing. You're writing in a plan, your DMP, and you're saying, here's what I'm going to do to meet the metadata standards for sharing my data. So there's one for data preservation access and associated timelines. There's access, distribution, and reuse, oversight of data management. There's also a last page for budgeting. Because what we find, obviously, if you're NIH or you are in the field that produces large data, there are limitations to how much we will store for free in the Harvard Dataverse Repository. There are a lot of free options for storing your data, but understanding that a lot of these options include putting your data in something like Globus, that takes a little longer, right, to go get the data, or tapes, that takes a little longer to go get the data, or other buckets and other places where the download is not immediate, but the benefit is that you're not paying for the storage, you're not paying for the downloads, because you can imagine the cost for someone downloading a very popular large data set from the cloud all the time. So there are different, and the things so you want to take into consideration storage, you want to take consideration curation. For example, we have curation services. If you wanted curation services, you would have to pay for us to do this for you. Developing any supporting documentation that you might have somebody else do, you have to pay for. Formatting your data, de-identifying your data is very time-consuming and very costly. Preparing metadata, unique specific project information, preserving and sharing data, and large data for the additional storage. Here's our Harvard Dataverse curation services for things that we do. There's a Harvard and a non-Harvard cost, as always. But we provide some services. We do not do de-identification because we do not have the bandwidth. Our Harvard Dataverse community, our Harvard Dataverse curation team here is very small. So we don't have the bandwidth to do that. We have collections that we manage ourselves that actually belong to Harvard that we have to do de-identification for, so that we will not do. But we can definitely talk you through cleaning your data and give you some pointers on cleaning your data. Okay. I'm going to end there. And I'm going to take time for questions. One of my associates in here, Dwayne, can we unmute everybody?
No, you'll have to do it one at a time. They can raise their hand and then we can unmute them.
Okay, if you have questions, maybe you can raise your hand and we can take them. You're welcome to put them in the QA, but if you raise your hand, then I can give you we can give you the ability to just ask your question out loud. No questions? Well, I hope then that means that the webinar went well. I see Julian is putting in a question. Does Harvard Dataverse have folder level download options? Yep, you put download option to each folder. Julian is typing the answer for that. And so, Julian, do you want to answer live?
Yeah, sure. Can everyone hear me okay?
They should be able to.
Yes.
Cool, okay. So yeah, so what I was typing was actually that that is impossible right now, at least not through the UI, where if you upload files and Dataverse preserves the hierarchy of those files in directories. Through the UI, you can't click a button that says give me only the files in this particular directory. There have been a lot of improvements with showing the file hierarchy in datasets and letting people download specific files within a zip file, for example. So when I saw that question, I've been exploring all these new options and looking through lots of GitHub issues to make sure that was correct. But yeah, as far as I know, the answer is no.
Right. What we do have is called a zip previewer. So if you have a zip file where you don't have folders and you upload that zip file because it has more than 1,000 files in it, the zip previewer feature is what will be enabled. And what that does is it allows you to expand the previewer. Then I can select whichever of the 1,000 plus files in that folder and in that compressed file that I want to download. That I can do. I can select which file I want to download. And if you'd like an example of that, if you go into the Harvard Dataverse Repository and you type in MIT libraries, if they have open data, because a lot of their data are restricted to the community, if they have an open zip file, you might see that it says zip on it. and there's a previewer that's for the zip file. And if you click on that, you'll see a list of all the files, and then you can choose which one you want to download. Okay, any other questions? Feel free to ask about whatever you like. I did see the question about the DOIs for data sets, for files, and yes, so the Harvard Dataverse workflow for that, the Harvard repository workflow is that because it costs for DOIs, you would have to submit a proposal on why you need file level DOIs, especially if you have extensive data sets, and they are considered on a case-by-case basis. So, if there are no more questions, we will share these slides. I will try to send them to you on the email that you used to register. And we will also put it up on our presentation site. We will tweet about it to let people know that it's there. And I will send off a survey that I had a little trouble with this afternoon. I will send off a survey, hopefully on your email as well, that you guys can just give us your feedback on how useful this webinar is or was. We have a number of other webinars, at least one a month, and we're slowly putting that into the event page. We will tweet about it. It's covering mostly things relevant to the Harvard Dataverse. And so you'll have an opportunity to register for those. They're only an hour long, so we can't get as many details as we want in here, but we can give you a nice overview, and you'll get the slides that has even more information in it that we hope will be useful. So thank you very much for attending. I hope it was useful, and please don't hesitate to contact us at support if you have any other questions for us. And we're going to stop the recording and end the webinar. Thank you.